From the ashes, the sky burned crimson the day they came, not with the gentle blush of sunset, but with the angry glow of a world caught in its death throes. The myriad arrived without warning, their obsidian ships blotting out the sun as they descended upon Earth like a plague of locusts. Their weapons, technology centuries beyond our comprehension, turned our greatest cities to ash in moments. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of the Nemesis, her weathered hands gripping the railing as she stared at the holographic projection of what had once been Earth. 270 years had passed since the fall, but the memory remained seared into humanity's collective consciousness. Thinking about home again, Captain Kang asked, his footsteps soft as he approached. Elena didn't turn. Not home, just what they took from us. 70% of Earth's population, 9 billion souls, had perished in the first wave. The survivors fled underground or to hastily constructed lunar colonies. Elena had been 16 when the myriad came, old enough to remember the world before, young enough to adapt to the harsh reality that followed. "We'll be ready for the jump in 30 minutes, Kang said, his voice carrying the same cold determination that had become the hallmark of their generation. "Engineering reports the void engines are at optimal capacity." Elena nodded. "And the fleet?" "All 700 vessels report ready. The colonists on Proxima Centauri and Ta Ceti have contributed their entire defense forces. Even the Mars separatists have joined us." Kang's lips curled into what might have been a smile 2 centuries ago. "Humanity stands united, Commander. United in vengeance, united in purpose. After generations of rebuilding, of clawing their way back from the brink of extinction, humanity was finally ready to strike back at the beings who had nearly eradicated them." The door to the observation deck slid open, admitting Dr. Isabel Chen, her silver hair pulled back in a severe knot. "The final calculations for the myriad homeworld have been verified," she announced without preamble. "Sector 7 to 19-4. Exactly where the captured navigator said it would be." Elena turned, her dark eyes reflecting the crimson glow of the hologram. "And the weapon?" Dr. Chen's expression remained neutral, but her hands betrayed her discomfort, fidgeting with the sleeve of her uniform. "The Sunforge is operational. One detonation will be sufficient to render their planet uninhabitable for millennia. Just as they had done to Earth. Poetic justice, some would call it." Elena wasn't sure what to call it anymore. Justice, vengeance, necessity. The lines had blurred long ago. "Commander," Kang said, his voice dropping, "the Council wants final confirmation. Once we jump, there's no turning back." Elena closed her eyes, momentarily transported back to that day. The screams of her family as their shelter collapsed, the acrid smell of burning flesh, the haunting silence that followed as she emerged, alone, into a world transformed. "Send the confirmation," she said, her voice unwavering. "We jump as scheduled." The fleet of retribution, as it had been dubbed in a rare moment of poetic flourish by the otherwise stoic Strategic Council, represented the pinnacle of human achievement. 700 warships, ranging from nimble strike craft to the massive dreadnoughts like the Nemesis, each equipped with technology reverse-engineered from myriad wreckage and enhanced by human ingenuity. Elena stood on the bridge as the countdown to the void jump commenced, her uniform crisp despite the weight of command that pressed down upon her shoulders. "All vessels report synchronized void engines," Lieutenant Commander Harper announced from her station. "Jump coordinates locked on Myriad Prime." Elena nodded, her gaze fixed on the viewscreen that showed the assembled fleet. Humanity's vengeance given form. "Commence final jump sequence." The ship's eye, Athena, began the countdown in her emotionless voice. "Void jump in 10, 9, 8. Elena's thoughts drifted to the memorial she'd visited before departure, a simple stone obelisk on Luna Base, engraved with the names of those who had died during the fall. Too many names to read individually, compressed into a microscopic font that made the monument appear smooth from a distance. 3, 2, 1. Void jump initiated. Reality itself seemed to fold around them. the stars stretching into streaks of light before vanishing altogether as the fleet entered the artificial wormhole created by the void engines. The journey to Myriad Prime would take 17 hours, a remarkable feat considering the distance spanned hundreds of light years. During those hours, Alina retreated to her quarters, ostensibly to rest before the coming battle. Instead, she found herself staring at the only personal item she permitted herself, a faded photograph of her family, taken months before the fall. Her parents, her younger brother Miguel, all smiling under the summer sun of a world that no longer existed. A soft chime announced Dr. Chen's arrival. Alina slipped the photograph into her pocket before granting access. "Commander," Chen said, stepping inside. "I thought you should know. There's been a development with the Sunforge." Alina's expression hardened. "What kind of development?" "Nothing that compromises the mission," Chen assured her quickly. "But during the final diagnostics, we discovered something unusual in the Myriad Navigator's data." The Myriad Navigator had been captured 3 years earlier, a stroke of fortune that had accelerated their plans significantly. The alien had died shortly after capture, but not before its ship's database was thoroughly mined for information. "Unusual how?" Alina asked, her tone making it clear she had little patience for vagueness. Chen hesitated. "The navigational data indicates that the Myriad homeworld has undergone significant changes since their attack on Earth. Energy signatures suggest a civilization in decline, not expansion." "Your point?" "My point is that after nearly 3 centuries, we know precious little about why they attacked Earth in the first place. If they're in decline, does it matter?" Alina interrupted, her voice sharp. "Would knowing their reasons bring back the billions they slaughtered? Would it restore Earth's biosphere? Would it give me back my family?" Chen held her ground. "No, but it might tell us if what we're about to do is justice or merely continuing a cycle of destruction." Alina stood, her posture rigid. "The time for philosophical debates ended when they burned our world, Doctor. We have our mission. I suggest you focus on ensuring the Sunforge functions as designed." After Chen left, Alina withdrew the photograph again, tracing her finger over the faces of her lost family. "Soon," she whispered. "Soon." The fleet emerged from the void jump with military precision, vessels appearing in perfect formation as reality reasserted itself around them. On the main view screen of the Nemesis, a rust-colored planet hung against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. "Myriad Prime. All vessels accounted for," Harper reported. "Minimal drift from projected coordinates." Alina nodded, her focus on the alien world before them. "What are we looking at? Tactical?" Lieutenant Ortiz responded promptly. "Scanning now, Commander. Detecting multiple orbital installations. And, wait," he frowned at his display. "This can't be right." "Explain," Alina ordered. "The orbital defenses, they're minimal. Nothing like what our intelligence suggested. And I'm reading only scattered population centers on the surface, primarily concentrated on the northern continent." Alina's eyes narrowed. "A trap." Captain Kang shook his head. "Our long-range scans would have detected any cloaked vessels or hidden installations, unless they have technology far beyond what we've encountered before, which remains a possibility." Alina finished for him. She turned to communications. "Any transmissions from the planet?" "None directed at us, Commander," the officer replied. "However, we are detecting communications between the surface and the orbital stations. Translators are processing now." Alina made her decision. "Maintain alert status. Deploy reconnaissance drones to map their defenses and population centers. I want detailed scans before we commit to the attack." As the bridge crew carried out her orders, Alina couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. This wasn't what they had expected to find. The Myriad had struck Earth with overwhelming force, their technology and numbers seemingly limitless. Yet their homeworld appeared diminished. "Drone telemetry coming in," Ortiz announced after several tense minutes, "confirming minimal orbital defenses. Population centers show. Commander, You need to see this." Elena moved to his station, studying the images being transmitted from the drones. What she saw sent a chill through her spine. The myriad cities were crumbling, many buildings in ruins or abandoned. The once mighty species appeared to be living in the decaying remnants of a far greater civilization. "What happened here?" she murmured. "Commander," the communications officer called out. "We've deciphered some of their transmissions. They're discussing us. They know we're here." "Put it on speaker," Elena ordered. A harsh, clicking language filled the bridge, processed through the translation matrix they had developed from the captured navigator's data. The alien words transformed into stilted but understandable English. The harbinger was correct. They have come. The progeny of Earth seek retribution, as was foretold. The cycle continues, as it must. Prepare the remembrance chambers. The atonement begins. Elena felt a cold knot form in her stomach. What the hell does that mean? Before anyone could offer a theory, Harper announced, "Commander, we're being hailed from the surface." Direct transmission. Elena straightened her uniform, her face settling into an impassive mask. On screen. The view screen flickered, revealing a myriad elder, its chitinous exoskeleton dull with age, multiple compound eyes reflecting the light dimly. When it spoke, its mandibles clicked rhythmically. "Descendants of Earth," the translation began. "We have awaited your arrival for generations. The chambers of remembrance stand ready. Before you exact your vengeance, we ask only that you witness what must be witnessed." Elena stared at the alien, trying to reconcile this frail being with the destroyers who had laid waste to her world. "Why should we listen to anything you have to say?" The myriad elders' posture shifted, a gesture their xenobiologists had identified as resignation or submission. "Because without understanding, vengeance is hollow. Because what happened to your world was part of a cycle older than either of our species. And because, children of Earth, you now hold the power to either continue that cycle or break it forever." Elena felt the weight of command press down upon her, heavier than ever before. The assembled fleet waited for her order, to unleash the Sunforge and render this world ash, just as theirs had been. Justice, vengeance, closure. Yet something in the elder's words gave her pause. "Stand by," she ordered, cutting the transmission. She turned to Kang. "Assemble a landing party. We'll hear what they have to say before we decide their fate." As the orders went out, Elena withdrew the photograph from her pocket one last time, studying the faces of those she had lost. "I need to know why," she whispered to them. "Before I can end this, I need to know why." Retribution's edge. The shuttle descended through the rust-colored atmosphere of Myriad Prime, buffeted by winds that carried the scent of decay. Elena sat rigid in her seat, surrounded by a heavily armed security detail. Captain Kang sat beside her, his expression carefully neutral, while Dr. Chen studied her tablet, reviewing what little they knew of myriad biology and culture. "Approaching the designated landing zone," the pilot announced. "Scanners confirm no weapons or ambush forces detected." Elena nodded, her hand resting on her sidearm nonetheless. Trust was a luxury they couldn't afford, not with the weight of Earth's ashes on their shoulders. The shuttle touched down in what appeared to be a ceremonial plaza, a vast circular space surrounded by crumbling spires. A delegation of myriad awaited them, led by the elder who had transmitted earlier. None appeared armed, though with an alien species, weapons weren't always obvious. "Remember," Elena addressed her team as they prepared to disembark, "we're here to understand, not negotiate." The fleet remains in position. At the first sign of treachery, they have orders to deploy the Sunforge. The air outside was thin and carried a metallic tang. Elena's environmental suit compensated automatically, but she could feel the alienness of this world pressing against her, a dying world, by all appearances. The myriad elder approached, flanked by what appeared to be historians or priests, judging by their elaborate markings. Up close, the signs of their species' decline were even more apparent. Exoskeletons dull and brittle, movements hesitant where Earth's records had described them as lightning-fast predators. "I am Karax, keeper of remembrance," the elders' words came through their translators. "We welcome you to what remains of our world, children of Earth." Elena did not return the pleasantries. "You said we needed to witness something. We're here. Explain why your kind destroyed our world." Karax's compound eyes reflected the dim sunlight in fractured patterns. "Follow. The chambers of remembrance will show what words cannot." They were led into one of the more intact structures, a vast domed building that resembled a temple. Inside, the walls were covered with intricate carvings, scenes depicting what appeared to be a history of conflict and destruction spanning countless worlds. Dr. Chen approached one panel, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding caution. "These are star charts," she said softly. "Each marking, it's a solar system." "Yes," Karax confirmed. "Each mark represents a world touched by the cycle. Yours is but the most recent." They continued deeper into the structure, descending a spiraling ramp that led underground. The temperature dropped noticeably, and bioluminescent organisms provided an eerie blue-green light that cast long shadows. "What is this cycle you keep referring to?" Elena demanded, her patience wearing thin. They entered a vast chamber dominated by a spherical projection, a holographic display far more advanced than anything they had seen in the decaying city above. With a gesture from Karax, the sphere illuminated, showing a galaxy view that slowly zoomed in on a distant star system. "We were not always as you see us now," Karax began, his translator struggling to convey the complex emotions in his clicks and whistles. "Once, the myriad spanned 1,000 worlds, our technology approaching the boundaries of physical law itself. We believed ourselves masters of our destiny, perhaps even gods." The hologram shifted, showing a verdant world that resembled Earth before the fall. "This was not our homeworld, but one we discovered some 5,000 of your years ago. The species there was primitive by our standards, barely achieving spaceflight. We observed them, fascinated by their potential, their creativity. They reminded us of ourselves, long ago." Elena watched impassively, though her mind raced to understand where this history lesson was leading. Then they came. The hologram darkened, showing ominous shapes appearing at the edge of the star system. Vast, geometric structures that defied conventional design. "We called them the precursors, though that name is merely our own invention. They have existed since before our species crawled from the oceans. They moved between galaxies on cycles spanning millennia, culling civilizations that reach certain technological thresholds." The hologram showed the alien ships descending upon the myriad worlds, unleashing destruction on a scale that made Earth's fall look merciful by comparison. Within a single rotation of our world, 90% of the myriad were extinguished. Our greatest fleets vaporize. Our homeworld cracked open like an egg. The survivors fled to colonies, to hidden outposts, carrying with them a terrible truth. Karax's posture shifted, mandibles trembling with what might have been grief or shame. "The precursors did not pursue us. Instead, they left us a message, embedded in the ruins of our civilization, written in mathematics that transcended language. They showed us the pattern, the cycle that has repeated for millions of years." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "What pattern?" "When a species reaches a certain point of advancement, they become visible to the precursors. But the precursors do not eliminate all such species, only those they deem unredeemable. Others, like the myriad, they offer a choice: become their agents or face extinction." Elena felt a cold dread spreading through her. "You chose to become their agents." "Yes. In our desperation, our fear, we accepted their terms. We would serve as their harbingers, their instruments. We would cull lesser species before they could advance enough to draw the precursors' full attention." The hologram showed myriad ships descending upon world after world, enacting smaller versions of their own destruction. With each world cleansed, their own population and glory diminished further. The cycle continues. The harbingers become the harbingered. Those we call rise again, discover our weakened state, and take their vengeance. Then they, in turn, are approached by the precursors. The choice is offered. The wheel turns. Elena's hand had moved to her sidearm without conscious thought. You're saying you destroyed Earth on the orders of these precursors, that you had no choice. We had a choice, Carax admitted, his tone conveying deep regret. We chose survival over extinction, as many before us have, as many after us will. And now you expect us to forgive you. Elena's voice was dangerously quiet, her finger hovering near the trigger. No, we expect you to understand, and then to decide. Carax gestured again, and the hologram changed to show Earth, not as it had been, but as it was now. A healing world, its atmosphere gradually clearing, life slowly reclaiming the scorched continents. The fall of Earth was different. For the first time in our history as harbingers, we hesitated. Some among us questioned the cycle, questioned our role. In that hesitation, we failed to complete the cleansing. We left survivors, more than any culling before. Dr. Chen gasped softly. You're saying you intentionally left survivors? That wasn't just our resilience. Both. Your species possesses remarkable adaptability, a trait the precursors fear. But yes, we ensured enough would survive to rebuild. It was our rebellion. Small, perhaps cowardly, but rebellion nonetheless. Elena struggled to process this information. Everything she had known, the foundation of her life's purpose, was being rewritten before her eyes. Why tell us this now? Captain Kang demanded. Why not communicate this centuries ago? Would you have believed us, or would you have seen it as a desperate plea from monsters? No, you needed to rebuild, to become strong enough to have a real choice, and now you do. Carax moved toward a pedestal at the center of the room, placing his withered claw upon it. A compartment opened, revealing what appeared to be a data storage device of alien design. This contains everything we know about the precursors, their patterns, their weaknesses, their technologies. We offer it freely, along with our submission to whatever justice you deem appropriate. Elena stared at the device, then at the ancient alien before her. You expect us to what? Take your place in this cycle? Become the next harbingers? No, we expect you to break it. The chamber fell silent save for the soft hum of the holographic projector. Humanity is different. In our observations, in our studies of the survivors, we saw a capacity that might withstand the precursors. Not now, perhaps not for generations, but eventually. If you choose that path. Elena looked to Dr. Chen, whose scientific mind was already racing with implications, then to Captain Kang, whose military discipline was warring with the strategic possibilities this new information presented. Commander, Dr. Chen said quietly, if even a fraction of this is true, it changes everything. Elena finished for her. She stepped closer to Carax, studying the alien who represented those who had destroyed her world, her family, her future. The rage that had fueled her for a lifetime still burned, but alongside it now flickered something else. Understanding. How do we know this isn't an elaborate deception? She asked. A way to save yourselves from our vengeance. You don't, Carax answered simply. But consider, we make no plea for mercy. Our civilization is dying, Commander Elena Reyes. Whether by your hand today or by time's passage tomorrow, we face extinction. But the knowledge we have gathered over millennia need not die with us. Elena took a slow breath, feeling the weight of a decision that would echo not just through human history, but potentially through the galaxy itself. I need to consult with my fleet, she said finally. This changes the parameters of our mission. Of course. But know this, the precursors will be watching. Your arrival here, your fleet, your obvious technological advancement, you are now visible to them. The choice you have resented us for making, you will face it yourselves, sooner than you might think. Back aboard the Nemesis, Elena convened the ship's senior officers and established a secure link to the commanders of the other vessels in the fleet. For hours, they debated the revelation, analyzing the data Dr. Chen had been permitted to copy from the chambers of remembrance. "The evidence is compelling," Dr. Chen concluded her presentation. "The mathematical models, the astronomical observations, they align with patterns we've detected but never understood. And the technology described, it's centuries beyond even our most advanced theories. So we're supposed to just, what? Forgive them?" Admiral Hassan's holographic projection asked, his voice thick with skepticism. "Form an alliance with the very species that nearly wiped us out." "Not forgiveness," Elena corrected. "Understanding. And pragmatism." She stood, addressing the assembled leadership of humanity's retribution force. "We came here seeking justice for Earth. That hasn't changed. But now we face a choice that goes beyond vengeance." She activated a display showing the data from the myriad archives, the pattern of civilizations rising and falling across the galaxy, the looming threat of the precursors. "We can use the Sunforge as planned. We can reduce this world to ash and eliminate the last of the myriad. It would be justice, by any reasonable measure." She paused, meeting each gaze in turn. "Or we can recognize that we face a greater threat, one that will come for us whether the myriad exist or not, one that we might, with their knowledge, have a chance of defeating." The debate continued well into what would have been night by Earth standards. Emotions ran high, hatred and grief battling with strategic calculation and the instinct for species survival. In the end, it came down to Elena's decision as mission commander. She stood alone on the observation deck, staring down at the dying world of those who had destroyed hers. In her hand, she held the worn photograph of her family. "What would you do?" she whispered to their faded images. "Continue the cycle, or break it?" She knew the answer, even as a part of her soul rebelled against it. Her parents had been scientists, dedicated to understanding the universe. Her brother had dreamed of peaceful contact with alien civilizations. They would choose knowledge over vengeance, hope over hatred. They always had. When she returned to the bridge, her decision was made. "Recall the landing party," she ordered, "and prepare a secure transmission to Earth." Captain Kang approached her, his voice low. "Commander, your orders regarding the Sunforge." Elena looked at him, then at the rust-colored planet on the view screen. "We didn't come this far just to become what destroyed us," she said finally. "Stand down the weapon. We have a new mission now." As the orders went out across the fleet, Elena felt neither triumph nor defeat, only the somber weight of a choice that would define humanity's path among the stars. The cycle of vengeance had been broken, not through forgiveness, but through the recognition of a greater purpose. Earth would have justice, not in the annihilation of its destroyers, but in the survival and ascension of its children, and perhaps, generations hence, in the defeat of those who had orchestrated its fall. Elena placed the photograph of her family in a secure pocket over her heart and faced the stars, no longer burning with hatred, but illuminated by possibility. The fleet of retribution would return to Earth not as avengers, but as harbingers of a different sort, bringing warning, knowledge, and the first true hope humanity had known since the fall. The real war was just beginning.